Okay, off to sequence B. And I explained in sequence A that the whole point of the sequences is to break the story down into more manageable bits of story. Yeah, I can structure 15 minutes of storytelling a lot easier and more clearly than I can the entire movie. Sequence A was establishing, a hook the audience into wanting to know what happens next, a broad sense of, the world of the story and some initial aspect of the conflict, and then we go into the ordinary world of the character and what their world is like, and then we end that sequence with the inciting incident, something that occurs that threatens that ordinary world. Sequence B is called the debate because, the rest of us, when we're faced with a problem, we tend to try to solve the problem simply to go back to the balance in our life. We want the ordinary world to stay. We don't want things to change. And we're going to do whatever we can to figure out how to hold on to that ordinary world. It's balance, and balance works. There's good in it, there's bad in it, but it works. It's balance, and to suddenly go out of balance, to see things really change in our life can be frightening, that doesn't mean that we don't necessarily go towards change at times. We prepare for change, we decide on change, we plan and we structure. But in a film, and particularly the inciting incident, we're not prepared for it. Or certainly the characters aren't. They're not prepared for what the inciting incident brings into their life, and we certainly aren't prepared for how it threatens their ordinary world. So we'll call it a debate because the character is really, in this next chunk of story, 12, 15 minutes, is to figure out how to hold on to the ordinary world. What to do. I'm going to debate. What should I do? In the example in Jaws, I said the inciting incident was, more or less the mayor saying you can't close the beach, and Chief Brody not really asserting his authority and doing anything about it. He just kind of bows down and just goes with what the mayor says. And that inciting incident, really the inciting incident of Jaws is what happens next because that decision, because he tries to assert his authority and actually he doesn't assert his authority the way he should. Another shark attack happens, and the Kittner boy gets eaten in this bloody scene above on the screen there. That's the inciting incident for Chief Brody. That's where really the film shifts gears. He realizes at this point that the problem isn't going to go away. I think that's what the mayor says. I think that's what the implication is, that let's not get out of hand here. Let's not close the beaches and turn this into something that frightens everybody and nobody's going to show up for a vacation. So, but a second shark attack, when a boy gets killed, that's definitely threatening Brody's ordinary world. Protecting the citizens. The mayor's threatening his ordinary world. The shark is threatening his ordinary world. So this is a call to action for him, and he's got to debate how do I solve this problem. The idea is, what's the clear action after the inciting incident in sequence B? What's he immediately try to do? What is he going to do next? How is he going to solve the problem? With Jaws, a Brody's immediate action is to try to, I guess we're going to have to hire somebody. We'll hire somebody. We're just going to kill the shark. That's his idea. That's his plan. We'll kill the shark, and everything will just go back to normal. That's not really him asserting his authority. He tries to close the beach again. He tries to suggest that. And again, the mayor says, no, we can't do that, just for 24 hours. And he undercuts Chief Brody's authority again. And once again, Chief Brody backs down. We also meet Quint in the sequence, and Quint is the shark hunter, and basically puts his offer on the table, and nobody takes it yet. You know, he offers to kill the shark, and the town and the mayor decide, well, that's pretty pricey. That's pretty pricey. Let's just see. We got some other guys that are going to go out, and they put a bounty on the shark's head, and that's how they're going to solve the problem. Is maybe we send enough town folk out there to to catch the shark that they'll catch the shark, and the problem will just go away. As with anything, ignoring the problem or anything that the main character does in terms of the debate, it's obviously not going to solve the problem. It's going to more or less deepen the forces of antagonism. It's going to show the audience more about what problems actually need to be addressed, not just the shark. In the Matrix, we have Neo, and he's sitting there, getting questioned by the agents, and his reaction is immediately to not cooperate, to invoke his rights as a citizen and get a phone call. And what he doesn't realize is the rules are not as he thinks, and the problem is bigger than he anticipated, and that's not going to solve the problem. But his intent is to go back to the ordinary world, to go back to the way things were, to go back to his apartment and go back to his way of life. That's what's driving his decisions. He realizes that there's a problem, and his way of handling it is superfluous, I guess. And the story continues as he tries to deal with what happens next. He goes back to his apartment. He follows the White Rabbit, and he wants to find out more about, the Matrix. And this little bug that was planted inside of him is something that he doesn't know if it's real or not. I think he assumes that it's not real. But when he runs into this group of Trinity and the rest of them, and they pull this thing out of him, he has to accept that things aren't quite what they seem. What he thinks is the ordinary world is a bit of an illusion, and he agrees to go meet Morpheus, and he arrives at the plot point that ends sequence B, and that is called the point of no return. It's basically where the threat is so great to his ordinary world that in order to really solve the problems as he's come to understand them, he has to leave that ordinary world behind. The equilibrium that governed his life before in the ordinary world is so threatened and so problematic at this point that he has no choice. He has to go forward. And in the Matrix, obviously, that's really quite typified by the choice between the red and the blue pill. You take the blue pill and you go back to the things the way they were, the ordinary world. You take the red pill and you go down the rabbit hole and you see how far it goes, and you leave that ordinary world behind. It's a perfect illustration of this plot point. And of course, it happens roughly at, I'd say 30 minutes, which is, if you divide this movie by 8, you get 15 minutes apiece, and here we are right at 30 minutes, and it is the end of Sequence B. In Jaws, Sequence B is roughly at the end of... I realized before that the Matrix wasn't showing up on my screen capture. Hopefully I talked my way through it well enough. Hopefully it is on the screen now. I had to kind of move things around and find applications that would play. In Jaws, we have Quint, and he offers as a problem, and this is where this scene is where Chief Brody realizes that not only is the citizens of the town at risk, but so are his children, and that's where things start getting personal. That's where the audience really connects with Brody when he wants to protect his kids. We have these guys, these fishermen that go out and have a run-in with the shark as they try to capture him. What is the point of no return in Jaws is when this scene here when Chief Brody, well, this thing is going all over the place. All right, technology, what can I say? It's the scene where Chief Brody and the townsfolk go out to try to capture the shark. This is the point of no return in Jaws, and this one is a little bit different. It's not, it's not as simple as the red pill or the blue pill, but it is a turning point for Chief Brody. It is when he, opens up his approach, and he knows he can't go back. He can't go back to just being the chief and doing what the mayor says. And what causes this change is ultimately the townsfolk go out in this sort of chaotic mass to try to catch the shark, and Hooper arrives also on the scene as somebody that's going to help him in his journey, and ultimately what happens is they catch a shark. They catch a shark, and we think maybe this is the right shark, maybe it isn't the right shark. I don't think Brody is convinced, and Hooper certainly isn't either. So that's sequence B. You really just kind of have to get the character to a point where they leave this ordinary world behind, where they, they're putting their ordinary world at stake. They're willing to let go of it. They're willing to let their life go out of balance to confront a problem more directly. They're clear about the problem at this point, and hopefully the audience has a clear idea what the movie is about. What is the movie about? We call it the dramatic question, the big question, and related to the main conflict of the story. It should be clear. In The Matrix, once, Morpheus tells him, do you want to know what the Matrix is? And he takes this pill, and all this trippy stuff starts to happen, and the great moment where he wakes up in the pot of pink snot and gets flushed down in the toilet, and they pick him up. It's pretty clear at this point, what is really going on. The dramatic question isn't fully formed in The Matrix at this point, but it's certainly got us engaged and interested in finding out more about what's happening. And actually in the next sequence, in sequence C, is where Morpheus explains more of what's happening. He explains exactly what the main conflict is, and we form the dramatic question clearly at that point. In Jaws, we're pretty clear at this point. Will Brody, protect the town and kill the shark and save the people? That's the clear question. That's the dramatic question. And that's what we're waiting for, and we'll go through this entire story to find out the answer to. So that's sequence B. All right, sequence B. I guess we're on to sequence C next and see what happens.